Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. First of all, I'm going to introduce those of us on the AACPDM Committee of Adaptive Sports and Recreation, and then we'll introduce our panelists in a few minutes. My name is Karen Romer. I'm a nurse, and I am a research coordinator in our CP clinic and in Memphis, Tennessee at Le Bonheur Children's Hospital that is run by orthopedic surgeons at Campbell Clinic. And then we have Dr. Susan Duff. Dr. Duff is an associate professor in the physical therapy Crean College of Health and Behavioral Sciences at Chapman University in Irvine, California. Sue works per diem as a pediatric hand and upper extremity specialist at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles. As a clinician and researcher, she focuses on the assessment, acquisition, and recovery of prehension and motor skills. Current research projects include the examination of key assessment tools, as well as the design and testing of targeted intervention strategies to augment recovery and function in infants, children, and adults at risk due to peripheral and central neurologic conditions. Sue is the incoming chair of the Adaptive Sports and Recreation Committee of AACPDM. And next we have Dr. Gavin Colquitt. Gavin is the executive director of the Blue Cross North Carolina Institute for Health and Human Services at Appalachian State University and professor in the Department of Research Management and Physical Education. He is a certified adaptive physical educator, certified strength conditioning specialist, and fellow of the American Academy of Cerebral Palsy and Developmental Medicine. Dr. Colquitt has developed multiple community-based programs to meet the needs of children with cerebral palsy. His research focuses on improving health and physical activity among children with cerebral palsy through home and community-based interventions.
All right, thank you everybody for sticking with us. I know this has been a long day, but we hope to share some really exciting things about some adapted sport opportunities that are going on in this region. Really glad to have GLASSA joining us today. I've known Cindy for several years. We actually met over COVID when we were trying to do some resource sharing for families who were, so they could still be active during the pandemic. So, and I do not have any financial relationships to disclose. So when we think about physical activity, we really have to think about it in different contexts. A lot of times we talk about the importance of being physically active, and that just kind of we think it's the same thing as exercise, but it's very different. And specifically, physical activity for people with cerebral palsy is very different. We've done studies where we know that, just for individuals with GMFCS4, for them to remain upright and maintain current postural stability, they're actually expending energy at a greater amount than a typically developing person. So we have to think of how are ways that individuals with cerebral palsy can be active, and we look at that not just through exercise, but also through sport, and then also recreation. We know that any form of physical activity can benefit and enhance the lives of people or anyone, but is specifically beneficial for individuals with cerebral palsy. One of the things that we know is that individuals with physical disabilities, so they've looked at adapted sport athletes, and they have found that it is a significant vehicle for the improvement in quality of life for those individuals. They're happier, they're more satisfied with life. Some of the feelings that they've experienced include, inspiration, motivation, And then it also has a beneficial effect on peer relationships. So especially during individuals in these formative years, that is extremely important, both inside and outside of the adapted sports settings, the connections that individuals can feel, whether it's being a part of a team, additional positive relationships with coaches and other older adults and mentors. And then overall, we know that sport and recreation and any form of physical activity is going to be extremely beneficial for individuals with cerebral palsy. For example, we've seen improvements in gait, balance, cardiorespiratory fitness, strength, pain. These are all things that can be improved when individuals are active. Now, there are just as there are different ways we can think about physical activity, the World Health Organization has guidelines on how much individuals should be active. And these were recently rewritten to include individuals with physical or with disabilities. However, we know that, again, the way individuals with cerebral palsy respond to activity or exercise or sport is a lot different. So there are specific recommendations for individuals with cerebral palsy on how to be active, and those were published in 2016. What we do know is that participation is one of the most important things. In many respects, physical activity is just a part of the potential benefits that individuals with cerebral palsy and other disabilities can experience when they are participating within a team setting. It's really important that these opportunities and these recreational activities take place within the community, that they are integrated into the community, so within the same local parks and recreations facilities or departments or whatever that typically developing kids are participating in. And we do know that there are significant barriers, and these barriers are real and substantial, but they can be overcome. And in this area, in the Chicago area, we're really lucky to have multiple facilitators, so to speak, such as GLASSA here today. So I'm going to let Karen introduce our panel.
So I'm going to start with Cindy Hausner. Cindy is the founder and executive director of Great Lakes Adaptive Sports Association, which is GLASSA, a nationally recognized nonprofit organization that provides adaptive and Paralympic sports programs to youth and adults, including veterans who have a physical or visual disability. Cindy's credentials include current track coach for Team GLASSA, 2019 co-leader Team USA Paralympic Junior World Championships, Games Director for the Great Lakes Region Games and Adult National Open 2006 to present, Competition Committee for Move United, Co-Team Leader 2015 and 2018 International Wheelchair and Amputee Sports Foundation World Junior Games Team USA, past board member of Wheelchair and Ambulatory Sports USA, former executive director for the National Wheelchair Athletic Association, Games Director of the 2010 National Junior Disability Championships, and Team USA Athletic Manager for Seoul Paralympic Games. And then next we have Mac Dong. Mac is a leg amputee and GLASSA Program Manager. Mac played wheelchair basketball at the University of Indiana, Champaign, and then professionally in France. Mac is originally from California and has participated in adaptive sports throughout his life. He coaches and oversees a number of GLASSA's adaptive sports teams, as well as playing adult wheelchair basketball and football. Thanks, Mac, for being with us today. And beside Mac, we have Margaret Bodwin. Is that close? That's not. Okay, Margaret is a young woman who competes in para, track, and field, as well as participating in other adaptive sports. Now in her early 20s, Margaret has competed since early grade school. She lives in Michigan and has competed in meets on a national, regional, and international level. Margaret has also qualified and competed at the U.S. Paralympic Track and Field National Championships. Margaret competes as an ambulatory athlete and due to cerebral palsy has paralysis on her side affecting her arm and leg. Thanks, Margaret, for being here with us today. And then last in the rockin' pink wheelchair is Peyton Maningo. Peyton is a high school senior with cerebral palsy and ambulates in a manual chair. She competes in wheelchair basketball, field, club, race running, and many other sports. Peyton is an excellent student and is looking forward to competing at the collegiate level. She has also qualified and competed at the U.S. Paralympics Track and Field National Championships. Thanks, Peyton, for being with us today.
Okay, thanks so much for being here. What I'm going to do is lead the questions, and then we want to open it up to everybody to ask questions. But first I'll lead, and hopefully we can kind of go down the line, and that would be probably the best. So this will lead, but I'll also improvise a little bit. Can you just tell us, like, what specific sports or activities you're currently involved with, starting with, maybe starting with Peyton. You can just grab the mic and kind of go through.
I'm currently involved in track and field, and I do the 100, 200, shot put, discus, long jump, and javelin.
Nice.
Hey guys, wheelchair basketball's been kind of my main sport since I was 5. I played professionally overseas, over in France. I went to University of Illinois, where I was captain of the team, and we've kind of competed all across the nation with that. I've also been a member of Team USA Amputee Soccer, and actually they're traveling over to Poland pretty here soon. But yeah, I also play wheelchair football for GLASSA. We're sponsored by the Bears, and I think they're going to beat the Packers today, so that'll be interesting. But yeah, just a wide variety of sports, and I'm blessed to be the program manager and able to help others find the sport that they'll love and that they'll continue playing into their later years. Yeah.
I just want to add, Margaret, you did forget one thing, and Margaret was just named to the World Ability Games, and she'll be traveling to Thailand this December to compete in her events. So yeah, what do you mean you forgot about that?
Congratulations, super. All right, I'm going to move on. I'm going to ask just some other questions. I think, how did you first get introduced to doing sports and recreation? And who or what helped you get involved? Because I think that's a huge question for many people. So maybe start with Peyton. We'll kind of go down the line again.
So I first got introduced to the world of adaptive sports. I was at my after-school program, and my now coach, Keith Wallace, was there DJing, and he saw me, and he came over and was like, I run a wheelchair basketball program, and you should come try it out. So I did, and I fell in love with it.
Go ahead.
I've been in I've been in track and field since I was in I'm trying to remember since I was in first grade. And I was just on the regular track team, and I was not running as fast as everybody else, and so we found out from someone else that there was a adaptive competition in Saginaw, Michigan. And so we found the yes, we found the sport. We found the. I'm sorry. We found out about it, and then we tried to figure out. We found out that was running at decent times, and that so we went up to Saginaw, and then I qualified for junior nationals, and it was in Saginaw that week, and so or the next month, and so I've been doing it ever since then.
So I've been playing wheelchair basketball since I was 5, but I actually found sport while I was pushing around at the local mall, and this blue-eyed blonde woman kind of came up to me and kind of, pulled my parents aside, like, hey, like, I'd love to see your son play sports, and, my parents we're from Cambodia, and so, of course, someone comes over and like, hey, yeah, let's go check it out. They were kind of freaked out at first, but I went to the first practice and kind of fell in love with it ever since, and now I've been doing it for 25 plus years. Yeah.
I just kind of want to add, I know probably geographically we have a large span of various states, but many of us that are in the Adaptive Sport Agency, we're not chasing someone down because, to be quite honest, it's hard to find, especially also in a rural area. The one thing COVID certainly has done is provided opportunities on a virtual level, and our agency, as well as others throughout the United States, do offer virtual. So we have kids that are in rural North Dakota, upstate New York, Flagstaff. So certainly that's a benefit. But a number of us looking around the room here, coaches and athletes, if we see somebody, we definitely will go up and say, hey, because it's truly the power of sports.
We may come back to that question at the end and that content. But I think the next thing I definitely would like to add is, I guess, did you have any obstacles that really, kind of like hindered your full participation in a sport, a specific sport or an activity? And then kind of right along with that, how'd you overcome those obstacles?
Okay. Well, I also do track for my high school, and especially the coaches are just not very understanding. And so I try to explain to them like how I can do the sport and what works best for me, and that's kind of how I overcome that obstacle of not everybody understanding, and just try to explain my disability to them as well.
Definitely talk about if there was an obstacle, though, too. Was there or not?
Just the obstacle of like people not listening when I'm explaining stuff, or like thinking I can do it one way when I tell them I do it this way.
I haven't really had any obstacles that I've had to overcome per se, but I've had trouble with balance when I'm throwing and things like that. So I have had trouble. I've had trouble like doing a spin for discus, and it has taken me longer to do a shuffle step for shot put, and I haven't really had any obstacles that I've had to overcome.
So do you think perseverance was the key?
Yes.
There you go.
I think one obstacle that a lot of adaptive athletes, they kind of see is equipment, right? The equipment you kind of see up here today, This is about like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's probably about $30,000 worth of equipment right there. These things aren't cheap, and I think just trying to find different grants out there, different organizations that can help kind of pinpoint how to get the funds to get equipment is huge. That was a big obstacle for me, just because you know, my parents, they're great. You know, we grew up in a low-income household, but at the end of the day, you know, I played for the Rancho Wheelchair Sports Association when I was growing up, and they were able to help me get connected with different like grant writers to help me find equipment. We at GLASSA, we help our athletes find those grants, whether it's through Move United, whether through Challenge Athletes. These are all different programs that we help our athletes utilize to help find those grants. Also, it's just finding the organizations itself. Adaptive sports is unfortunately still kind of one of the best well-kept secrets. And I say that because you don't necessarily know where to find it unless you know someone that's already in that world. And so our job is to make sure that we spread that word of mouth, and we help people find an organization near them wherever they are in the world. Just because we're out there, but I think people just aren't sure what the first step is to take. And that's one of the biggest obstacles, just finding it.
I just want to add, especially for Peyton and Margaret, a obstacle. So with the State High School Athletic Association, there's many states that have standards specifically for the wheelchair athlete, the individual using a chair to ambulate. And there's also standards for para-athletes who are ambulatory, such as Margaret, that has paralysis or an amputee. The states of both Michigan and Illinois do not have standards for individuals who are ambulatory and have a physical disability. So again, it varies state by state, but that is definitely an obstacle, because you can be top in the country, going international, and yet you cannot advance with your peers to the state level. And that, you know, hopefully that's changing. We're trying to work with the various state high school athletic associations through the federation, but that certainly is an obstacle.
I think the biggest thing that we're on that Adaptive Sports and Recreation Committee, and right now we have a subcommittee that's trying to put together a toolkit that will go on the AACPDM website. But what we can't do, because the AACPDM cannot advocate for specific organizations, even though we put together one. We had put together a list from different regions because we're from throughout the country. But what we want to do is definitely create a PDF or a page to put on the website with how do you look for, you know, different types of organizations and what are some key words. And we would love to talk to this group afterward. Hopefully you could stick around. But I think that's a big thing. Like if you have, we kind of want to go down, and if you have suggestions on what someone could do, because there are others in the room, you know, clinicians, parents, and others who really want to know, how do you find them? Do you have suggestions? All of you might have a suggestion. If not, we'll kind of move on to the next thing.
Do you have any suggestions? So I think I can speak on it. I think the biggest thing, you know, we live in a world where social media is huge, right? If you type in adaptive anything, at this point in time in the world, you'll find someone showing off the latest power soccer trick, wheelchair basketball, you know, track and field. Using that to kind of find those different organizations is big. I also highly recommend utilizing the local organizations. So for example, GLASSA, we can help pinpoint exactly where, like if someone is in New York City, we know different organizations there. And we have those different contacts. Also, a big governing body is Move United. So moveunited.org, they help find specific organizations in different areas as well, pertaining to what specific sport you like. If you say you want wheelchair basketball, there's a spot you search up, it's wheelchair basketball, wheelchair football, and what have you. But, you know, Cindy, what else do you think?
Actually, it's pretty good. Yeah, I would just say really trying to be resourceful and not giving up, and it can take phone call after phone call and email after email. because it sometimes is very difficult to find, so.
One thing we are going to do, I'm sorry, you can definitely talk in a minute. We are going to try and get clearance through AACPDM for specific national organizations that we could probably provide at least a link to, because that's the hardest thing. Who's the contact? And, you know, we'll see what happens. You know, we're optimistic. We're going to go slow because we want to get approval. So we're going to start with the PDF and a web page. So definitely I may want to stay, you know, at least get some keywords. Like I think adapted is good, or adapt, and then we can take it from there. But I think what I'd like to do is maybe open it up and really have Cindy speak a few words about what she, you know, what she does to actually help people, you know, be recruited. I think your strategies may be really insightful.
I would say, and I'll have Mac also you know, add on, but it's really a multifaceted approach because not everybody is the same. So I think what keeps individuals in sports are definitely the people, right? It's the coaches, it's the relationships, it's the friendships. And so I think that with some individuals, it's one-on-one. It's making sure that, you know, we're sitting across from a table. Another individual may have transportation difficulties and they're not going to be able to get to a weekly program. So, you know, so how do we work with that? It could be via phone call, it could be email. Really, you know, we also, in the community, we have our medical facilities that are definitely referrals. I would say we're not, I think Mac probably would agree, and the rest of you guys, probably not getting enough referrals from medical facilities, so would love to see more. So love to hear from everybody in the room as to, hey, how can we do a better job with that? Certainly the schools, those that have, sometimes it's athletic directors, sometimes it's a school nurse, it can be an OT, it can be a PT, it can even be, you know, in your community, who provides accessible transportation. So really looking at the services in your community across the board that might be serving. Also, you know, talking about adaptive equipment, what about the equipment that is individual needs on a daily basis? So it could be a walker, could be braces, you know, orthotics. I know we were just at, that's actually my husband who coaches over there, but we were at a prosthetist, at a well-known prosthetist had a picnic, and we went out, and it was great because how many amputees we hit at once, individuals who are amputees, correct myself, but it was that one-on-one interaction. Mac, and as well as another of our program manager and our other coaches, we just attended a camp specifically for individuals with limb loss, and we did various sports across the board because not everyone's going to be a very competitive athlete. Some are doing it, you know, for recreation. So I think it really depends on, you know, the individual, but the more resources that you can touch, you know, that could be a potential referral. So.
Yeah, the outreach aspect, it's incredibly important just kind of stay on top of people. I think one of my challenges as a program manager is I'll meet parents that have a young athlete that can absolutely play an adaptive sport, but it's kind of that fear of having their child like, oh, well, I don't want to put my child on display. It's like, it's not, we're not putting anyone on display. We want your child to come and become part of a community that's full of love and competitive, and that they can use sport as a tool to kind of get to where they want to in life. I'm really excited because these two young ladies to the right of me, they're going to be going, you know, off to college and competing at the international level, and just being able to use that to kind of showcase their abilities in the world, not as just adaptive athletes, but athletes in general. For me, I've been able to graduate. I went to the University of Illinois on a full athletic scholarship. There was no way in heck I was going to be able to pay for college unless I was playing a sport, and my grades were okay. But this sport really helped change my life, and I'm able to be in the position I am because of the people that I met, but also just, you know, just being part of that community and kind of growing with it. and just giving back to others. You know, Cindy's always chasing people down at local state fairs, right? And we're always trying to find people and just staying on top of them, like, hey, like this is an opportunity for your child, your athlete to be something bigger than what the society thinks upon them.
Well, like going on chasing people down. There's people from all over the country on GLASSA. There's people from on GLASSA from California, all the way to, I don't know, New York, all over. Peyton or I could be at a track meet and say, you're not on a team, join GLASSA.
Ideally, though, there would be an adaptive sports program in everyone's town. So it's not like, that's the ideal. But again,
I didn't mean it like that. But
as Margaret and Peyton and Mac, if someone does not have a program in their community, we're certainly there to provide support and also work with the individuals within that community so that they can start a program. But as looking at this adaptive equipment, it's very expensive. And again, we're 25 years old. When we started 25 years ago, we started with a budget of $0. And I am not a fundraiser at all. So again, had to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And
how did you do it? Because I think that's a huge question in general.
how did I? It was little by little. We had a board, which was consumer, pretty much parents, coaches, and then really looking at other nonprofits, not only in our area, but kind of across the nation, knowing that for us to have any type of income, we had to have board members that would assist us. And certainly that's been a huge, what would I say? Important aspect of what we're doing. We have a young professional board. Being in the city of Chicago, most of our young professionals are in the city. So that's another board. We have a women's board too. So it's really just touching, right? And just, really getting the word out and the importance of what we're doing. Working with the universities is a big aspect also, because we want to make sure that with our students, yes, academics comes first, but also providing an opportunity for them to partake in sports at the collegiate level. So I was going to say there's not really a plan. It's
I think it's great. I also wanted to bring up Sarah Albus. I've been introduced to her. She's somebody who is actually from Baltimore, has her own company, and what she has done is she also has, like almost every organization does, she has like fundraisers, and she has things like silent auction online and things like that, and that people make donations to. So I think there's a lot of options, and I was thinking, what could clinicians and teachers, educators, what could we do to kind of like get the word out? I think there's a lot that could be done, and maybe we can even like create some kind of like flyer or something, like in addition to the PDF. I think we're just starting with the PDF, starting slow, but if you have ideas, definitely stay afterward, give me your email, and then I'll give you mine, and we can actually, take it from there. I didn't know if we wanted to try and show some of this equipment. Is that feasible or not feasible?
Sure.
I think that would be great for people. Did you want to make a comment? Go ahead.
I was going to say there's a organization called GLASSA that I've helped get all their CP athletes involved in adaptive track and field and adaptive sports. That I've done demonstrations at those retreats, and they've come out and now they're come out when they were younger and now they're older, but I help them get involved in adaptive sports.
And that was CHASA, you said,
Yeah.
CHASA?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Anybody else? Yeah, let's open it up first and then we'll do some demos. Go ahead.
Curious, how does this work? Are you guys like Team GLASSA, or are there different teams, or how, is it all individual, or how?
Yeah, it's very complicated. Well, so for example, you know, Peyton plays basketball, wheelchair basketball, with another team in the Chicagoland area. And in the Chicagoland area, we are really, really fortunate to have great adaptive sports agencies. Shirley Ryan itself has adaptive sports, and we all play well together, so we're not competing. GLASSA specifically does track and field that other organizations at this point in time don't do. But how many basketball teams does Chicago have right now, ballpark?
Four.
Yeah, 4. So again, so yes, it's team, but it's also, you know, it's also individual too. So yeah, I can understand, yeah, the confusion, so.
Hi. I have a couple questions, so I'm sorry. I'm a therapeutic recreationist from Canada, so I work at a children's treatment center, and so getting kids involved in sports and adapt sports is kind of what I do. So this is great, so thank you. My questions, have you ever encountered, especially with parents, the risk of pretty much anything and doing any type of sport, whether it's adapted or not, and how to justify risk versus reward for those kiddos and getting them involved, and like how do you approach those more, I don't know, complicated families when you see what the child wants to do versus what the parents think is okay? Every day. How do you support getting them involved?
That is a great question. So I think it's a case-by-case thing, right? You truly have to like know what that family kind of stands for. So you might have an athlete who absolutely wants to try everything, right? But there may, you know, the family might be in a situation where they can't make it to a practice. I can speak on our behalf. If a child has transportation needs, we're able to kind of help out with that, either utilizing public transportation, or I might go and pick up a kid using company vehicle. I think it's really, it just pertains to kind of the season too, in a sense, like, all right, if the athlete does multiple sports, you kind of have to prioritize, like, all right, if this person's coming up to track season, what are the resources we can provide for this athlete to kind of be able to attend the practice or the games? But yeah, it is individual based. Are you in Toronto, perchance?
Hamilton, so about an hour out from Toronto.
About an hour out. Yeah, so I did my internship in Toronto at the Pan American Center, Sports Center. So what they do, they have the Wheelchair Basketball Academy, and they essentially try and find funds for athletes to centralize. But again, that's just for basketball. You might have an athlete that wants to do goalball, or they want to do sled hockey. Again, it depends on the sport and what you're trying to accomplish. Yeah.
Hold on, can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a organization called the Cruisers in the Brampton area, and I know someone that is on the team out of that area, so that would be another.
I would also
Yeah.
say it's the power of parents, and I'm looking at these two right here. Because truly, if I have a new individual coming in, I'll do the very best to make sure that there's going to be another athlete of similar ability, that there's going to be a parent who can advocate, and I let that parent know, hey, can you be at excellent practice? We've got somebody new coming in. Because as a parent, it can be very scary, right? I mean, there's a lot of things, but there's also a huge parent network, various parent networks, right? I just found out about one this week. But so I just keep the multifaceted approach is huge, and the relationships with coaches, and that's, you know, we went to the picnic, you know, we had coaches there and we were talking, but definitely use your parents. And the medical community too, your OT, your PTs, because that, I know rec therapy, that's my undergrad, but your OT and PT, that's where they're getting therapy. And, they have been, to stand and to like, well, one of the biggest things we get, especially with some of our sports is, well, they've had PT for years so that they can stay upright. Why would they utilize the sports chair? And, hey, but they're only, one thing I will say to a parent, they're only going to be in a sports chair for 30 minutes or an hour, and then they're going to get right back out. So again, kind of knowing what those factors are when you're working with parents.
Yeah, perfect. I have a second question, if that's okay. When you're talking about like adaptive sports, a lot of what the work that we do too, where I am from, is we do a lot of integration into mainstream where we can. And I'm just wondering, from your perspective and everyone on the panel, where do you find is the value in creating space where athletes can participate among peers, or do you find that there's value in having more segregated programs? Like, where do you feel that you find the best value in sport?
Both. And I'll give you an example. Let's take swimming, for example. As soon as our swimmers can, regardless of disability, can swim across a pool, we want to get them in a club. So that's totally 100% inclusion. But if they're in a big club team, you can have 100 kids in a pool, right? And so they're getting the pool time, but they may not be getting the one-on-one instruction that they really need where they're really working on strokes. So what we do is also provide an opportunity for then the one-on-one, but we want them inclusion as much as possible. I mean, both you guys did high school inclusion, and then we also have practices that were specifically para, I would say, where we have, so it definitely 100% inclusion is great, and then having the support so our athletes can be independent on an inclusive basis.
I mean, adaptive athletes are athletes. I think one of the biggest things that kind of organizations overseas, they do a better job of like including everyone regardless of abilities. So actually in Canada, they allow able-bodied athletes to play on the same team as someone with a disability. And it levels out the playing field. If you have an organization that has three athletes that have a disability, if they're able to bring in their brothers and sisters to bring in that fourth and fifth player for basketball or whatever sport it is to be able to provide the opportunity to play, that's big because you create more opportunity, and it's just about sport. However, there are those that push back because it's like, oh, well, my child will be on the sideline if an able-bodied athlete comes and plays. But there's checks and balances within that can be included within the rules of a specific sport. But at the end of the day, everybody just wants to play. It doesn't matter.
Hi, this is more of a comment than a question. My son is also an adaptive athlete. He's 16. He was part of the Move United Junior Nationals the past 2 years. And I was with him in Colorado, but not this year at Alabama, only because I've been to Alabama before. And he often tells me that GLASSA is the heavyweight. They've got the biggest team. They win all of the trophies. And he wishes he lived closer, but we're actually in Connecticut, and he's part of the NJ, the New Jersey Navigators.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So,
we know the Navigators well.
Yeah, so we're a big team as well, but not as big as you guys. And I just wanted to share a few other things as well. I think I met some of you before last year. I was here as part of Cerebral Palsy Soccer. So we're an organization that provides soccer programming for kids with cerebral palsy. It's completely free, just like GLASSA is. I'm a parent. It's founded by other parents as well. And the only thing it's different to GLASSA is really it's very much of a team sport. And I think some of the questions that you raised just now sort of resonates a lot with me as well. How is it's so difficult to find all of these kids and get them together. We're in New York, and you would think it's very easy to find these kids, but actually it's not, because kids with disabilities actually don't like to live in New York. It's very difficult to navigate there. And there's been a lot of challenges in finding these kids. But then to your point, you were saying, oh, the siblings can join in. And that's what we've done as well, so really to sort of to create this community for kids. And we also have a program in Houston, and I think we probably share some of the kids with GLASSA as well. I can probably name a couple of them. So some sort of shameless promotion on my side. Apologize for that, but really want to be able to sort of share that with you so that when you create this PDF or something that will help the rest of the community, I'd love to be part of that as well. Something else I wanted to talk about was the reason why I was here last year is I did run a camp with Columbia University, and we sort of measured the health and the mental and physical benefits of team sports for people with cerebral palsy. Last year was a pilot program and then a pilot camp. And this year we ran it again with Mass General, and we got a team of 10 soccer players. My son was one of them. Now that he's 16, he's more of a sort of a mentor, taking up more of a mentor role. So what we want to do is each year we run these camps and take these measurements. So the kids are wearing their heart monitors. We're finding out the efficiency rate of what they them doing their activities, and then doing these interviews, before and after interviews with the parents as well as the athletes, to find out their social, emotional sort of benefits or differences. But anyway, thank you for this presentation. Everything that you said I agreed with so much, but hopefully I'm not taking up too much of your time.
No,
Thanks.
I thought it was great. And I put this slide up just because these are our 3 emails, and definitely email. Hopefully you'll stick around and we can get information. But also, I didn't know, was that program associated with Andy Gordon, or is it something separate? Because he was my doctoral advisor.
Oh, I know Andy only through Columbia. It's not directly associated with him. It's associated with Dr. Catherine Dimitropoulou. She's an OT at Columbia. But I think she works very closely with Dr. Gordon as well.
Okay.
You're with a great group. We love the navigators. So, yeah.
Share again, this is all possible only because of the parents, and the navigators, they're all parents as well. We're so thankful of the tireless efforts that they put in for the kids.
Did anybody have another question? Because if not, maybe we can definitely want to get the equipment before everybody leaves the room. That would be super. I'll come get the mic. Yeah. If anybody has a question, just raise your hand and I'll bring it over.
Do you want us just to go over to the
She has a question. Yeah.
All right, thank you all so much for coming. It was great to hear. I'm a researcher over in Seattle, and I work with kids with CP. And my question is, if you've met any kids or talked with any kids who are maybe scared at first of trying the new sports, and I was curious if you have advice that maybe I could pass along to some of the kids I work with.
Hey, what you guys?
Okay. I mean, when I started sports, I was scared, but as soon as I got into it, I really liked it. So I think it's just all about trying it, making friends, and remembering that you're not going to be good at it at first. You just have to practice, and you'll get it. Don't worry about being the best. Just have fun.
I could basically go on what Peyton just said and more, because like sports have helped me so much ever since I was like 5, and when I was doing soccer, I wasn't the greatest at it, but I kept going and doing it, and I kept getting better. Like, you just get better at it. You get better as you go. It just trying to think. What? Yeah, you develop friendships, and then you have friends from all over the country, or friends all over where you live, depending on what sport you do. So.
I think just remind the kids you're just playing, right? I think there are some families that are thinking about the next level already. It's like, you know what, the kid's 5 years old. Let's let him play little sharks and minnows first before we get him out to the Paralympics. But just showcasing that there are a lot of other individuals out there that are doing the same sport that they are, and just being patient. Like if you throw a kid into the fire too quick, that can absolutely intimidate them and kind of take away from that love or ever wanting to try it. But have an athlete show up to practice, they can observe, and then if they want to try it, that's fine. If not, maybe next time. Just being patient, and also again, it pertains to the child and like how they're feeling, and just being aware of that. Yeah. Oh, I think she had it. Yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to build on that, if that's okay. I think a lot of it is also some of the nerves that I tend to see with the kids that I work with, like, comes from the visibility factor. Like, they're nervous to do the sport because they haven't seen someone else do the sport the way that they do it. So I think a lot of it is just reassuring that there's other ways to play sport, there's other ways to do things. And, like, if you can find that community, yes, the friendships are a valuable piece, but I also think the visibility of it, for sometimes, like, that's the biggest piece that gets kids involved, is that they're actually seeing people like them playing the sports that they want to, and then that can sometimes help alleviate a lot of the fear. Is just the visibility piece and understanding that it's okay for them to play that they need to play versus trying to fit into a specific box that sport kind of has sometimes. So, sorry.
I just wanted to add, a lot of times parents will say, well, my child doesn't want to come, he doesn't want to try it, and if the child has never experienced success, especially if he or she's been in a 100% inclusive environment, they are scared, and rightfully so, because they haven't experienced success. So kind of what everybody here is, I'll be like, just come and, just watch, or just, and once they watch, but again, you can't blame those kids because they have not, had success. So it's scary. So.
One thing I just wanted to bring up are not only group sports, but there are other things that kids can get involved in, like archery, or there's other things I see, like in my community. And what's interesting is one of the sports, like I live in California, it's called Life Rolls On, adaptive surfing. Then I have a friend who's in Philadelphia a long time, and they have that same Life Rolls On in New Jersey. And I thought, wow, I think that there are a lot of commonalities, despite the region.
I just wanted to say, I'm Margaret's mom, but she loved sports from when she was little, so it was easy for us because but we had trouble finding things. And it's different in different parts of the country. In the Detroit area where we're from, instead of one big group like GLASSA, which does a lot of different sports in Michigan, every sport is its own nonprofit, and so one group just does wheelchair basketball, one group just does sled hockey, one group just does water skiing and kayaking. And so it was hard figuring out where the resources were when she was little. She loved sports. So we tried all the local community stuff, which I think is a big thing. And we just kept trying. But my key was trying to find coaches who were willing to work with her and understand and give us some flexibility and be willing to listen. And if If the coach wasn't going to think outside the box and work with us, it was like, move on, find somebody else. Because her being successful in whatever way she could was important. And so that made a huge difference for us as we just tried different things. One thing we found was Margaret was ambulatory, and almost all the organizations focused on wheelchair tennis, wheelchair this. So we did not think that she was eligible to go to that. And I remember going to do the adaptive water skiing one time, which is one of her favorite things to do. And they said, well, why haven't we seen her now? She was like 12, I think, when we did it the first time. And I said, well, every picture on your website showed everybody in a wheelchair or more severely affected. I had no idea Margaret was welcome to come because she was ambulatory. So I think the inclusiveness of different ways of disability is also very important, instead of just being wheelchair or just being amputee or just being ambulatory, that the people think they're able to. We just happened to find a wheelchair tennis guy who said, oh yeah, well, I work with ambulatory people too, but the rec department had everything listed as wheelchair. So that was one of our first experiences being out there, but it was just trying to find things was the hardest thing to do. And trying to get involved in the regular events, and then trying to find the support to help her because she learned how to do things physically differently. But so that's a big thing, is the persistence and trying to find those resources. That's the hardest thing. And just reaching out to other people and sharing that. We found a lot of PTs and OTs didn't know anything about sports. They just did their job in their box, for example. And the doctors are the same way.
I just wanted to pass along some good news from Shirley Ryan. This is like may be building a site in I don't know if it's in the Detroit area, but in Michigan. So I'm from Michigan originally, so that was very, wonderful. I do. She just wanted to say she does horseback riding for her sport. Yeah. That's wonderful. That's an individual sport, but I think that's wonderful. Horseback riding is fabulous. Love horses. Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? I just want to, we have another one. This is great. Okay. No.
Just to follow up. Thank you so much. To follow up on your comment, that was really helpful, because our son is ambulatory, and that's one of the issues that we've had, and that was a follow-up question I had for GLASSA. So is it when you do become part of the program, are there coaches that can adapt to however, and help the kids accommodate in their own way? Is that just part of what they learn?
100%. And we first recruit coaches sport first. Randy, do you want to say anything? Do you want to say anything? Well, as coaching, how do you adapt to our ambulatory athletes?
Yeah, and again, I'm Randy Hausner. I'm actually Cindy's husband, but I'm a full-time coach, or feels like full-time with GLASSA. Okay. But I'm one of the track and field coaches, and yeah, the question is very good, because everybody is very, not very, but somewhat unique in their disability and in their drive to, what level do they want to exceed to. So we try to adapt, the word continues to come up, but there's a lot that can be learned. I participated in sports, not at a real high level, but enough to know that there's a lot of things that can be extended from the able-bodied community into the disabled community. And I don't think, personally, that a lot of coaches in the adaptive world necessarily draw upon that. So that's something I try to do, is, look for the able-bodied community and what can then translate. But there are, unique things. I work a lot with the amputee population and the balance, and I won't get into a lot of detail, but there certainly are differences. So there is a lot of information out on the internet, though, as well. And so there's a lot of resources we can draw on as coaches and even as parents to, to figure out what might fit for that particular athlete and what they would like to excel to do, and be, remain competitive. So.
Where do you live? Oh. We'll talk to you.
Okay, I think we're kind of ready for two things. One is I did create a kind of like a write-in sheet, and on it I have Google terms that you think would be good for our PDF. And then another would be add your email, then we can include you and maybe ask you if you don't add, if we have like a quick, few questions we may want to ask you for more information. And then organizations that you know of that are national that we could potentially ask AACPDM to, maybe include in a drop down or something that's maybe futuristic, but we're working on it. And then types of sports activities, like definitely I think the horseback riding would be great. Like I said, adaptive surfing, who knew? I think, and there may be others, but I'm going to put this in the back. One more second. And then I just want to mention that Jill is in the back and she's going to say a few words first. Then you can say something. 1 second. Go ahead. Say it now.
No, I was just going to see what other adaptive sports there are, like things you can try. They have tried many.
Great question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I've tried adaptive surfing, kayaking, rock climbing, water skiing, and snow skiing. Anything else? Okay, yeah. On top of wheelchair basketball and para track and field.
There we go. Okay. So, so we were talking in our committee meeting this morning after this that everyone, we have kind of this similar sort of thing. Every year we talk about adaptive sports. Everyone gets really excited. I can feel the excitement in the room. Everyone wants to go home and participate in an adaptive sport of some sort. But we've never done any follow-up to see how many people actually are able to find something and get involved. So we're going to try and do a follow-up survey if everyone got their email in when they registered, or if they didn't get a place to write your email. And we're going to send out like a really simple survey, a couple questions like, A, did you get involved with a sport? B, how difficult it was, and C, what obstacles did you run into? Was it transportation or fear, or the coaches at the high school wouldn't help, or whatever it is? And we'll find out, follow-up, how y'all did.
Definitely time to maybe show some equipment. I think that'd be wonderful, or at least talk about it. Maybe Cindy, you can help out too. That would be super.
Yeah. Okay. Peyton, I would like to show everybody, we have a race runner, which is for individuals that may not, don't have the fine motor skills to possibly utilize a racing track chair. We also have a field chair, which is shot, discus, javelin, and Peyton, due to her disability, throws something called the club. It looks like a bowling pin, right? And one thing we didn't talk about really quick is classification. And classification is done by a sport-specific individual as well as either physical therapist or a physician. It's a series of functional tests that allows our athletes to compete against other athletes with similar disabilities. So Margaret has paralysis on one side. When she goes to Thailand, she's going to be competing against other athletes, adults who also have paralysis on one side. And there's a lot of different, but with specifically cerebral palsy, there's 8 different classes. 31 would be an individual such as yourself who utilizes a power chair, all the way to 38, which is an individual who is ambulatory, has cerebral palsy, and it might be just very slight with the gait. So again, I don't want to get into that, but just like with Peyton, when she competes, her classification is a 32, and she competes against other individuals, females, age group, that are 32. So it's equal, for the most part, equal participation. So should we show you Race Runner? This is Peyton's Race Runner. Where'd it go? Oh, right there. Do you want to help? This is the wrong seat, which she let me know this morning. But for Peyton, to be able to utilize a sports chair would be difficult with balance, with having your core, but yet Peyton is not where she's going to be able to compete without an assistive device. How much did this cost, this one? Do you remember?
This is just under 2,000.
Yeah.
All right, so she would have a different seat, so just bear with us.
No. Whoa, 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 whoa.
If you can't do it, it's fine. This is gonna, because I know it's the wrong seat.
So usually her seat would come down, so she just steps in and we pull it back up. This is new.
Yeah, this also would be up. So again, a lot of it is, and Mac is excellent at this also, but it's seating and positioning. Unfortunately, across the national aspect, to try to get somebody to measure even for a racing chair, if somebody's looking for a new profession, we would love it because it's very difficult to find those individuals to measure specifically. But go ahead, do you want to? This is a Paralympic sport, so when you see the commercials on, they just started for Paris 2024. This is one of the, and so this would be a timed event. I feel bad, Peyton, because I know that seat is not correct. But this is, again, you can see how she's ambulating and against other race runners. So. I know, let's get her off.
This piece of equipment looks great, not even for just race running, just for getting around, walking.
But you can see, I mean, she doesn't fit right now. We need to do some definitely adjustments.
That's really big in Europe, and it's just
Yeah.
now catching on in the United States. So the United States is behind the
Got it, okay.
It's huge in Europe.
Do you want to talk? Yeah, you want to do the sled? Well, Peyton gets into her. I'll have Mac talk about the sleds.
Hey guys, so yeah, this is a sled that's used in sled hockey. Like Cindy mentioned earlier, seating and positioning is also big within sled hockey, just because depending on the athlete, depending on how many limbs they might have, depending on their level of disability, you kind of seat. You position their feet or whatever limb it is based on their height, their weight. As you can see down here, there are spacers and blades on the bottom here. Sled hockey's played on ice. And essentially, the athletes are able to propel around using two hockey sticks that have kind of hooks on them. Or, hooks on the edge of them, and they propel kind of moving forward kind of like this. But this is also a Paralympic sport. U.S. typically takes gold whenever we're up for a Paralympic game, which is great. This also has different click straps. This is what keeps the athletes in from falling. Athletes typically have a lap guard as well because you don't want to get stabbed by those hockey sticks. It hurts a lot, I can tell you from experience. Athletes also wear helmets just to prevent from injury to the head as well, and it's full contact. Right, when you get out there, if you're expecting something cute and nice to see, you might be in for a rude awakening. There's a lot of hits, a lot of speed. It's a really great sport. GLASSA recently just won the Heartland League Championship, and actually they're looking to repeat again this year. So it's a really great group. You'll also see that there's click straps down here. This typically keeps your foot in. Again, this is a safety measure. You don't want kind of your limbs kind of flying around, to the side. And I'll show you guys the basketball chair next. So the chair that I'm in is essentially called an everyday chair. So I'll use this if I'm going out to, to work, if I'm just kind of doing something leisurely. But when I'm ready to jump in and play a sport, I hop in here. And it's the same thing. So I'm able to go a lot faster in my ball chair. And I'll just, you guys hear me? All right. So I'll strap in. And now my chair here, this basketball chair, it has cameras. So the chairs are, you're able to spin really fast. You stop on a dime. The wheels are slanted just so I'm able to spin and move around a lot quicker. This is fitted exactly for me. So as you see, it's a tight fit, but it's a perfect fit. My one leg is tapered in, my hips, everything. Like I'm able to move around. Next thing. Sydney, you want to talk about the fielder attractor? Yeah.
This is a track chair. And an individual, the more core you have, the better. If you don't have fine motor, you may not be successful in utilizing this, but this is the typical when you see the marathons and the 5Ks and the 10Ks, an individual will tuck, put their feet through here and their seat here, and then they're seated based on their measurements. They have to fit, based on their hips, based on how long their arms are, depends on the ring. And then these are the 3D printer gloves. So again, it's based on your hand size. So, but again, not everybody is going to be, even though they look really cool, not everybody's going to be successful, and that's why we give them choices. So I'm going to have Randy talk about the field chair. Here.
I'm going to use this to have a seat. This is a field chair used indoor and outdoor. Basically, the athlete is strapped onto the chair. The chair is secured to either the ground or the floor. Think of 4 long ratchet straps coming down from here, typically secured into the ground. Holds it very, very firm. This pole, I'm right-handed, so this would be set up for me. Could do the reverse, so it's left-handed. Shot put, discus, javelin, and Peyton specialty, the club, she throws backwards. So it can be used for all 4 of those different events, and the chair, can be sized to the athlete. The one thing I learned about seated chair is the rules very much push the athlete for independence. They have to be at a very, very severe disability to get assistance. Otherwise, they need to get in, need to be able to strap themselves, need to be able to do it all. That was a surprise to me, but that's the spirit of the sport.
But Peyton's can receive assistance. So Heather, mom, when we're at a meet, can get a waiver so that she can assist Peyton. However, if you have, let's say, a spinal cord injury, you have all your abs or spina bifida, you cannot have an assistant, and it takes X amount of seconds you have to get in. So again, the whole point is definitely independence, but certainly with Peyton's classification, she is allowed assistance. But Heather also is not coaching her, and she's out of the throwing circle at that point. So she's got a coach. So
I just wonder why it's so high. Is it high, especially if you have to get on and off so quick?
I think it's to keep their feet. I can't even put my feet.
Right,
on the ground,
you have to be.
It's just the body and the chair, not any assistance.
So this cannot be over the throw. We have 1,000 rules, but it cannot be over the throwing circle. Obviously, at the beginning level, the big thing is having fun. We're not, but as our athletes do move up, we want to make sure that they are receiving the best coaching they can. Margaret, one thing we don't have here today, and I know you've used it, is when you're starting using the, what is that called? No, what's the, okay, yeah, can you, what's that thing called?
I was like, what are you?
There's a couple of things that ambulatory track athletes use, a couple of different things, that if they have an arm length difference, like Margaret does from her CP, she doesn't use it anymore, but...
There's a black holder for, here. You can talk about it.
Okay, so it's like a block holder. So it helps fill the gap between her hand and the ground. So actually, our previous coach, Dave, was the one who would teach us how to make them. It's like a block of wood and a tennis ball can, and it's all taped and everything together, but you have to make it to the height your athlete needs between. It gives them the support to go down in the blocks and push off.
Blocks were here, my hand would be resting on something, and then I would take off with the block.
And sometimes athletes with cerebral palsy, because of the balance issues, they do not use starting blocks, and you're not required to use starting blocks. because of the balance issues, but also the transition from being down to up. They lose momentum in the change of the way they do things. So actually the Paralympic sprints coach told Margaret to go to like a linebacker stance, so she doesn't use the starting blocks when she runs, because being in that stance allows her to take off and go where she needs to go. But the one piece of equipment sometimes the ambulatory athletes use, which I want to talk about, was the carbon fiber brace that Margaret's wearing. When she was younger, she wore more of the hard plastic DAFO and Cascade type ones. But in sports, they don't move very well and give you you don't have enough ankle flexibility. But Margaret always hyperextended, so that's why we never went to a carbon fiber brace. But there's a lot more versions of a carbon fiber brace now. And so now she has one that works even with her hyperextending. But they fit it to make it. And the carbon fiber braces give a little spring to it and help with the balance and then being able to push off. She doesn't have ankle motion. So it helps with some of those things which make her more successful as an athlete. So that's carbon fiber braces you'll see a lot in ambulatory track athletes that need that.
I had a question for Cindy or anyone. I think if let's say you're a therapist or an educator or recreational therapist, what kind of things do you believe would prepare, like even starting toddlers, young children, to get them ready for sports? What's missing? I think that's an important point.
Wow, that's a tough one. You know, as a therapist, I would just say continue working with the children, the kids that you have in your programs, so they can be as independent. And that's what you're doing anyway, and that'll help them transition. I don't know if you guys have any, yeah, no, go.
As a parent, the one thing that we found is through the school district, you lose your PT and OT services fairly early, especially if they're ambulatory. But I know it happens for people who are in wheelchairs as well. If you can get in and out of the building or get around the building, then they're like done. And the one thing we were lucky, we had a PT at our school who wrote the goals. She wrote the goals to make it so that Margaret was included just as everybody else. So she had PT all the way up through high school, but it changed over the years. But in the beginning, she'd say, well, if she's going to participate in PE class, she needs to be able to throw the ball. If she's going to participate in PE class, so she wrote all the goals towards participation and being in the regular gym class. So she was able to get PT, maybe not 4 times a month, but she got it 2 or 3 times a month. And then when she got to high school, it was more consult, and Margaret took like strength and conditioning class, and the PT would go in with the teacher, set everything up, figure out what machines she should use, et cetera. And then she would just check in with her once in a while. So the PT thing, through the services through the school, that was a way we were able to keep getting services a lot longer than most other kids do.
I would say I know a number of parents, especially, you get somebody on a phone and they'll say, my child has cerebral palsy, and we'll talk about it. And I'll be like, how about track? Oh, no, they can't do track. They can't, nope, they can only ambulate. And then once we get, many times, we may have individuals, once you get, and with coaching and working with the schools, it's amazing where first you're just going to do 100, and then, we've gradually kind of increased that. So I think setting realistic expectations, but also kind of those reach expectations also are really important. Peyton, you have anything? Heather, anything? Nothing, okay. Matt?
Okay, I think the biggest thing is I may have some specific questions for people, so hopefully you guys can stick around. But in the back, I would love, definitely everybody, look here and see if you could add any Google terms, add your email if we don't have it already, and any organizations that you think of that would be good for us to maybe see if we could add them to our list, and then any type of sports or activities. I wrote a few, but I have a pen here if you need it. There's also a sign-up sheet in the back for GLASSA, so if you're local, definitely sign up. And do you want to sum it up?
Yeah. Hi. No, thank you for coming today, GLASSA. As a parent of a young woman who has cerebral palsy, who actually participated in sledge hockey, because I'm from Canada, and actually with the cruisers. So it was interesting to say, here you mentioned the cruisers, and she actually even did some sports with the women's national team. To see these kids in the change room with their peers talking, that's an experience that not a lot of our kids get. And I can't even begin to say the benefits of just seeing them with their peers, finally finding somebody that they're comfortable talking with, and they're excited, and they're out and they're getting exercise, and even as a parent as well, meeting other parents, and having, sharing like interests, and just, complaining sometimes, so maybe things aren't the best all the time. So no, thank you, GLASSA, and thank you for the panelists as well for coming today. Just housekeeping before you guys go, if everybody can put their visitor badges just outside on the desk. They need those afterwards. And then you can always visit the American Academy's website, go on the Community Council. There's lots of pre-recorded sessions from the years previous. And there's also, if anybody's interested in joining the council, there's a link for that as well. And we're still here if you have any questions on the way out, okay? But thank you, everybody, for what a wonderful day.